Hello, everybody. We're going to run through the lines for Week 6 NFL. This week, my NFL South game of the month goes on Thursday. This is going to be a big winner. You don't want to miss out. I'm 3-1, 75% with my NFL games of the year. And on top of that, I have another college conference game of the year for Saturday. That's after hitting my big one last week with Wisconsin, who opened as an underdog, and they beat Nebraska 23-21. Remember, they opened as a dog, and we moved the line on that. 5 days of football from me. That's right, there's an offer for you. 5 days of football from me, Thursday through Monday, for $25. It includes that Thursday NFC game of the month and my college conference game of the year. This is a $250 value for $25. Plays every day through Monday. 1-855-846-7426. 1-855-846-7426. And don't forget, I have a new free play number for you. Free plays daily on your cell phone, right to your cell phone. Just text the game, right, not the game, just text GAME, G-A-M-E, to 25827. That's GAME to 25827. You get free plays each and every day right to your cell phone. And don't forget, JimFeist.com. We have stuff there every week. We have the contest, the super contest from the Westgate. We got all that. We got the fast facts. You want to take advantage. This stuff's all free. Now, if you'd like to have this great value that we have 5 straight days, right through Monday, it's $250 value. It's yours for $25. Just call 1-855-846-7426. Now let's look at the lines for this week. Very interesting. We have Atlanta going down to New Orleans. We're not going to talk too much about this, but the game opened and still is Atlanta's 3. We got Denver going to Cleveland. Game opened 6. It's down to 4. Cleveland's been moving the ball quite a bit. McCown's playing very well. Denver has a bye week next week. The game is 4. Total's 42.5. Cincinnati, we all saw them come back against Miracle comeback against Seattle. They're way down in that game. Came back. Very interesting how Hugh Jackson and Andy Dalton are working so close together this year. And Hugh Jackson, by the way, if you don't know, it is the offensive coordinator. Just joined them this year. They're now 3.5 at Buffalo. One thing we have to remember about that, they just played Seattle, very physical team. They're going on the road, play the Buffalo Bills. But Buffalo has a problem. Tyrod Taylor is doubtful. That's right, he's doubtful. I think he hurt his ankle. He may not play in this game. He may not play after this game for a couple weeks, possibly. E.J. Manuel will be playing. And they go to London next week. So that's interesting because they end up playing Jacksonville in London next week. So E.J. Manuel against Andy Dalton, and the Bills are 3.5-point underdog. Kansas City, who's a mess this year, I think Andy Reid needs to retire. I think the game's passed him by. The Chiefs at the Vikings. Chiefs lost Jamal Charles last week. The running back, great player. Minnesota Vikings opened 4.5. It's down to 3.5. I'm not quite sure why they moved in that direction, but with Charles out, and he's definitely out. He's out for the season. Not sure why they're betting on the other side, but that may just be aberrational. Minnesota's coming off a bye, so they're rested. Kansas City's been a mess. Houston, who's now decided on Hoyer at the quarterback, they should have not changed. O'Brien has not done a good job as a head coach down there. When you see indecisiveness from your head coach, the players on the team lose respect for you. Their defense hasn't been playing very good, but they're going to Jacksonville, and Bortles is a little banged up. That's the quarterback for Jacksonville. He's hurt his shoulder. Houston opened 1.5. It's 1 now, and the total is 43. You have issues on both sides of this. There's no bargain. There's no real quality football being played by either one of these teams. The Bears, surprisingly off 2 wins, another miracle comeback last week, go to Detroit, who's an absolute disaster at this moment. Detroit opens 2.5, it's up to 3, which is kind of surprising. The total is 44. I don't know why you'd bet either side of this because the confidence level cannot be that great. Chicago's playing decent, not great. They were way down to Kansas City, but they came back and won that game. But we know how tough it is to figure out what Kansas City's going to do next. Washington goes to the Jets. Jets are off a bye, and they play the Patriots next week. That's interesting. The Jets opened 5.5 or 5. It's up to 6. Washington had a tough game. They lost the overtime game to Atlanta. They're playing very well, a lot better than any of us thought they would play coming into the season. But the Jets are rested, and they're sitting there in New York waiting for them. Arizona, who's played every game really well except the one against the Rams, which was, by the way, a division rival, and the Rams beat them. They go last week, and they had no trouble at all with Detroit, which, like I said, they are a train wreck. So Arizona beat them up. Now they're going to play Pittsburgh. We all saw the Monday night game with Pittsburgh beating San Diego. I don't know how you felt about it, and I was on Pittsburgh. I had the +4, and I actually had it over, so I got a little fortunate at the end with that touchdown at the end. But I had the game covered anyway for the side. The confidence level when Michael Vick drops back to pass, you kind of like start to sweat because you just don't know what he's going to do. The guy's not that accurate with his short passes. Footwork is bad, but he can throw the long bomb, and he did hit a couple of those, and that made a difference. But the Pittsburgh defense did a decent job. Rivers is a good quarterback, but they bottled him up for the most part. Arizona's 3-44.5. They're on the road, second week in a row, and they're 3 at Pittsburgh. Miami, this is another train wreck. All the coaches have been fired, changed, replaced. There's issues. I mean, I'm sure people on the team are worried about their roster spots because when you get a new coach, new broom sweeps clean. You know how that goes. They're probably worried about their jobs. They were off a bye last week. Think about it, work on their game, whatever they're going to do. They go to Tennessee. Tennessee 2.5 up to 3. I like this Tennessee team. They've blown the last 2 games. They should have beat the Colts and they should have beat Buffalo, but they made mistakes. This is a young team. Marcus Mariota is a pretty good quarterback. I think he's going to be a future star. Miami's got the better roster, but they haven't performed all year. Can you really expect them to perform here with all the new coaches? It's really hard to say. Tennessee is going to come to play, but they haven't been able to figure out how to come to play and win. So that's a difficult proposition. Another team off of bye is Carolina. They're going to Seattle. Seattle, they are physical, man, and they beat you up when you play them. And they come to play, and they are desperate. They've only won 2 games, barely the last one at home a couple weeks ago, but last week they had a tough game at Cincinnati, lose the game in overtime. Miracle comeback. They had Cincinnati beat. Cincinnati came back and won that game late. And Seattle opens 5 up to 6.5, 41.5 down to 41. Carolina's undefeated. They're a pretty good team. They don't have all the superstars, the wide receiver issues. There's a lot of things wrong with the Panthers on paper, but they have been winning. A cross-country trip, but that's offset by the fact that they were off last week, which meant that they could rest and prepare for Seattle. San Diego, coming off the Monday night game against Pittsburgh, goes to Green Bay. Green Bay opened 9.5 up to 10, and the total's 50. You know, Green Bay, you really don't realize they've been struggling on offense a little bit. They didn't put up a lot of points against San Francisco, and last week they struggled against the Rams, beating them and covering in both of those 2 games that I'm mentioning. But They turned the ball over quite a bit last week. A little bit of a mess, but they got some benefit playing against Foles and the Rams because they turned the ball over quite a bit too. Not that impressed this last couple